Thank you for staying tuned. Now, despite the huge contribution of Nigeria's manufacturing sector to the country, overall economic growth and development, the industry is no doubt still fraught with myriads of challenges. Meanwhile, the prevailing circumstances in the domestic operating environment, especially high cost of diesel, poor access to foreign exchange, insecurity, delay in importing raw materials and exporting finished products, among others, are taking a toll on their productivity. Moreover, manufacturers in the country are also at the receiving end of the fiscal and monetary policies of government and the central bank, such as unfavorable trade policies, taxation, excise levies, as well as scarce foreign exchange and high inflationary pressure. To discuss this as we chart the way, of course, forward for the sector, I'm being joined virtually again via Zoom. He's the Director General of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, Mr. Segun Ajayi-Kadir, MNI. It's good to have you on the show. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me, Tolu.
Yes, I want to start with this little bit of appreciation that we've seen with the Naira. Yes, I know it's so short in a time, but has that had any impact? Are your members now able to access Forex? I want us to really start on that note because of that ease that we saw in just like a week or two.
Yeah, thank you very much. The ease that we saw in the last few days are only indicative of what is likely to be a relief for the manufacturing sector. What you can see now is that when you go to the bureau de change, it's possible for you to get dollar at a rate that is a bit lower than you are getting it in the past. To that extent, yes, it is some relief because still through the official channel, it remains very difficult, has remained very difficult. And most people are not getting more than 20% of them. Most of my members are not getting more than 20% of what they require. So we still fall back on the road change in the black market, whichever time you decide to use. So we are looking forward to a situation where, the real solution will come from a situation where you are able to get what you need to buy your raw materials, your machines, and your spares from the official market. But what has happened is that, yes, the pressure is less in terms of getting it from the bureau de change at rates that is lower. I think it has gained by about 150 to 200.
Some say increasing production and value addition will help address this challenge. But how do we increase productivity with the challenges we have at hand?
Yes, productivity is a function of several factors. And infrastructure is key. The enabling environment that will allow you to operate profitably is also part of it. And you need to be able to have a recourse to amendments in laws and regulations and change of course in initiatives that are not helping the process. So it is extremely difficult for you to understand an environment that does not recognize the pertinent challenges that confronts a sector like the manufacturing sector. Our productivity has continued to be negatively impacted by infrastructure and more recently in terms of the policy choices that the government has had to make. One of it, for instance, is the escalation of the excise on the most productive sector of our 10 sectors in the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. You have the potential increase outside the 2022 fiscal policy of the excise on non-alcoholic beverages, wines, and spirits, as well as tobacco. At a time where the sector has recently taken a beating from the roadmap of 2020 to 2022 to 2024. So we are at a loss as to how the productivity in this sector that has been the best performing in recent times could be enhanced if we continue on that trajectory. We also have the challenge of Forex, which you earlier on mentioned. For the opting time, we are saying that there has to be prioritization in terms of who gets a bigger share of the Forex that is available. Because the manufacturing sector has the capacity to grow the economy and even give you the dollar that you need, because they repatriate their profit from exports. So when you operate in an inclement environment and you still manage to export, it should be expected that your export proceeds should be available for you to buy your raw materials, your machines, and your spares. At the same time also, when you go to the banks, I mean, there's need for the central bank to ensure that the priority is given to the demands from this sector. Again, you look at the area of power. I mean, up till now, it is still very difficult for the manufacturing sector to assess the eligible customer scheme, which will have allowed them to get power at a cheaper rate for them to be able to manufacture. When your cost structure has power as between 32 to 40% of a cost structure, it is very difficult for you to have an inefficient performance and still be able to make profit. I think at the last count, 2021, the manufacturing sector spent more than 77 billion naira on alternative source of power. This would have been saved and plowed back into the business if we had an effective supply, which we have always asked for. And I mean, you are no stranger to the price of diesel that has literally put it beyond the reach of our medium and small scale industries, who have had to cut down on their shifts, who have had to cut down on the volume of their production, and thereby reducing their bottom line. So there are quite a number of challenges besetting our capacity to be productive the way we should have. And capacity utilization has continued to hover around 50%, I mean, which is gross underutilization and does not allow for profitability.
Excess importation is also something we see. What's its impact as Algerians continue to import? What does this mean for our manufacturers and the industry?
I beg your pardon?
I'm talking about excess importation. What does it mean for manufacturers and the industry?
Yeah, you mean the influx of imports?
Yes.
Well, it's as you already know, Tolu, we are always and constantly competing with imported materials, imported items that come from environments that do not have the constraints that we have. For instance, in countries where you borrow less than 5%, I mean, you can imagine the ease with which you produce and you export your products. They have those products, particularly those from Asia and Europe, has tended to compete with us unfairly, particularly from Asia. Those countries intentionally promote export, and they ensure that the conditions that surround the production of those export materials are conducive, so that where they are able to gain access to your market and are able to sell you in terms of the price of those products. We have also seen a situation where large volumes of imports are done illegally, and that is smuggling, either by our porous borders or even from the ports. So we can see large influx that have tended to unfairly compete with our products. Another variant of it is even counterfeiting vibrant brands in Nigeria, those brands that have been able to establish a reputation and have resonated with the average consumer in Nigeria, have had to contend with large influx of those same items counterfeited from outside of the country. We are, however, working very closely with SON, and I believe I should commend the Director General for partnering with us, especially some of our most impacted sectors, to continue to rate at great risk to them. Those people perpetrating these nefarious activities are quite, many of them are armed and they have been a challenge, but we are working with some to be able to overcome this challenge. Where increasingly, counterfeited products are becoming major competitors in the market.
That is really sad. We are moving. I just looked at it now. To Christmas, it's less than 40 days, about 40 days to Christmas. And normally, a lot of production should be on now because of the demand that we should expect this season. What is happening in the factories now? Everybody getting busy. How busy are manufacturers? And what is your projection towards the end of the year for the sector?
Yes, the manufacturer is always optimistic and looking forward to an environment where there are large sales. And so you have many of our members embarking on promotions and trying to take advantage of the huge purchases that are made during the festive period. However, the trend has not been as encouraging because the disposable income of the average Nigerian has gone down, and the travels for ceremonies and events have been restricted, mainly by security concerns, and also the fact that most of our rural roads are still not passable. So you have a possibility of those high volumes not becoming a reality. However, this is a sales period for many, especially for those products that are for entertainment, and we expect that there will be better sales around those times. But the obvious reason that I mentioned that people don't have much money to spend at this time, and people are being cautious about movement around. All these factors, socioeconomic factors, tends to affect purchases at this time. But we are looking forward to government supporting the efforts of the private sector by making the environment more and more conducive, particularly now that we are in a transition period. I guess the luck that we may have will be the politicians who have large sums of money to spend, and that they will purchase local materials for their campaigns, and INEC also, in terms of the materials that will be used, including paper, biros, notes, and all that. Those ones that could be purchased from Nigeria should necessarily be purchased, because there's even a government regulation that requires government, department agencies, and ministries to give first choice to made in Nigerian products.
Yes, I think the Buy Nigeria, promote Nigeria. I think that is what we need to do to enable manufacturers do better. So I know you'll be attending meetings, town halls, and all of that, discussing with some of the presidential candidates. Now, if you were to pinpoint or itemize some of the key issues that you think manufacturers will put on the front burner for anybody that becomes CEO, can you just itemize some of them in straight terms? You know that would definitely enable and strengthen the sector.
Well, thank you very much for this very important question at this time. And I think the beginning of it will be for us to actually get the attention of potential leaders in Nigeria. There's no country in the world that has ever become prosperous in the real sense of it that does not have a viral manufacturing sector. So it is critically important for us to solve most of our socioeconomic challenges by promoting manufacturing. To start with, everybody that is aspiring to lead this country must be able to engage the private sector, not only manufacturing, because virtually all the businesses that is run by government are either failing or have failed. And so it is important for government to recognize the private sector as a veritable partner They are good at doing business, and they should just do the business. So the government should concern itself with creating an environment that is conducive for business. That should be the number one priority of the incoming administration. So the presidential aspirants, I think they have to bring issues to the table that assure the private sector that they mean business and that they can be seen as veritable partners. We need to be able to address some binding constraints that hinders the performance of the manufacturers. For instance, they must have a definite plan to ramp up on a generation of power. They should also be able to eliminate linkages that has left government incapable of providing the infrastructure that the private sector needs. We need to be able to have their positions on the fuel subsidy that no reasonable government will allow to survive. It's just important that we get trillions of naira that is being wasted literally, not to the benefit of the people. We should be able to have an economy that prioritizes the use of its finances. Already we are constrained and we are running a deficit budget. So there's no need for us to continue to dwell on those activities that drain our resources. Also, we should face insecurity. In the northeastern part of the country, more than 40% of our industries have closed. And this is due to the activities of insurgents, bandits, and other social miscreants that have continued to plague the areas. So there's need for the incoming administration to look at our security architecture and do the right thing so that we'll be able to have some measure of security, because you need to be guaranteed of your safety and of the safety of your property before you can properly invest. And these are major issues. And as an association, we are engaging them, but not in the, what we have seen in recent times is the kind of engagement that politicians are being given is the one that helps them to play to the gallery in most of the cases. I think there has to be a structured engagement, especially with the economic team, because they are likely to emerge as ministers of key economic ministries. So it is good that within the parties, and that is what we are doing, we are engaging them so that we can give insight into what we are looking forward to. Happily for us, we already have a document which we have tagged Blueprint for the Accelerated Development of Manufacturing in Nigeria, the second version of it. We also have a policy brief that we have developed from it. This is our engagement material. So we hope to be able to ensure that we ram this into the consciousness of the politicians in the days ahead. We are already contacting them, and we are looking forward to engaging the economic team so that we can have a synergy and an understanding of how the landscape should be going forward.
All right, thank you so much, Director General, Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, Mr. Segun Ajayi-Kadir, MNI. Thank you so much. It's good to really have you contribute meaningfully to our show today. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much for having me today.